interview on September 29th. Okay, interview with Miss Barbara Spike. And the first question is, what was your path to the Indiana Academy?
My daughter applied to the academy in '94, and because she was my last child at home, I decided to look for a job. I found out that there was a temporary opening at the academy, and I applied for it and got it. And shortly after that, it became a permanent position. I've been here ever since.
That's awesome. So you've been here 17 years?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what is your job as I think you're the...
I am the administrative coordinator, which is basically the lead support staff person. I do not directly supervise the support staff people in all the other branches, but I do keep track of what they do, make sure that it's coordinated. I do all the contracts for faculty and SLCs and make sure that everyone gets paid on time. Also do some purchase orders, some college counseling. I help Mr. Patterson with 1/3 of each of the classes, meet with them regularly, and just try to help them get into the colleges of their choice. There are many other little jobs that we do, mostly having to do with the paperwork and bureaucracy of working within a high school, a special high school, which is also a department of a major university.
Huh. So how much involved is Ball State in the Indiana Academy? How much is it just like a separate branch of it, or?
We are a department within Teachers College, and our budget is regulated and managed by the financial office at the college. So we are very closely interwoven. Our teachers are actually Ball State employees, and any teacher who has a doctorate is an assistant professor at Ball State as well. So the relationship is very close. We're very closely regulated both by Ball State and by the Department of Education.
Awesome. All right, question number 2. Which aspects of your work at the Academy have had the greatest meaning for you?
Oh, that's easy. Actually, any time I can have an association with the students, and primarily at this point it is through college counseling. They come to me individually, I get to know them, and unfortunately it's only 1/3 of each class that I get to be that close to, because I'm only counseling 1/3 of each of the seniors, 1/3 of the juniors. But that is the most satisfying part. I'll also say that working closely with Dr. Barton in student life, I work on the student services committee with the psychiatric counselor and with several of the SLCs, Dr. Smith, Mr. McClure, Ms. Tewitt in admissions. We meet to discuss any students who might be having difficulties either academically or psychologically, and try to intervene so that they want to stay here and they do well and are successful here.
Huh.
So that kind of interaction is my favorite.
That's awesome. So do you get to counsel, like you get to help kids decide where they want to go to college?
Yes.
Huh. So
yes. Hopefully they will have sort of decided that, and I can just channel them through the appropriate procedures, because it's a time-consuming process.
It's a very time-consuming.
And try to help them find scholarship money. Sometimes we have to point them in the right direction if they're only focusing on Harvard and they don't have the grade point and they don't have the SATs to be accepted at Harvard. We have to provide other options that they should look at.
Yeah, because those schools aren't for everybody.
That's for sure.
There's a lot of different schools for everybody. So, question number 3. What do you wish you had known about the Academy before you began your work here?
Wow. Oh, it's going to sound very mundane, but I wish that I had known that the opportunities for advancement were so tightly regulated, especially for non-exempt employees, with an hourly employee, which is what I am. The amount of increase in salary is predetermined, you know.
Is it really?
unless I were to apply for a professional position or a faculty position or something of that nature, I'm limited as to the increments of my salary every
It's
year.
very structured.
Very, yeah.
Huh.
But on a positive note, I wish that I had known a lot more about the academy before I started working here, so that I could have promoted it better among friends and neighbors, colleagues of my husband who worked for Eli Lilly and had some pretty good associations there. Most of them didn't really know in those days in the 90s, mid-90s and late 90s, didn't know what the academy was. And they had students who definitely would have done well here.
So how well recognized would you say the academy is today among?
It's much better. It's much, the publicity has gotten out, and of course we have a much larger alumni base, and those folks are also helping to promote the academy and get our name out there. I think that we can still do better. I think we need to have more publicity and more recognition, but admissions works toward that goal every year, and we're getting closer.
Would you say that publicity is a good thing for a school like this? Like, would you ever want to get a billboard advertising the academy?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think that it's good to have, like, only certain kids find out about it through letters? And, or like, how much publicity is too much publicity?
I don't think there is too much publicity unless something negative should occur. We did at one time investigate billboards. They're extremely expensive, and we simply don't have budget for it. Not only that, the university discouraged our having billboards for whatever reason. I know that one of the early presidents, not President Gora, but Dr. Worthen, was a little reluctant to have our name out there. I'm not quite sure why, because I think that with the number of positive contributions that our alumni made, it would have been a good thing. But we did check into billboards, and we just simply could not afford them. They cost about $6,000 a month.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. You asked me another part of that question, and I don't recall what it was. How much publicity is too much publicity?
Yes.
As far as the good things that we're doing here and the opportunities we're providing for students, especially those from poorer financial strata in their communities, I think that those are things that we should really promote and try to do more. I don't think that we can have too much publicity in that regard. People who have sent us children from underprivileged areas keep wanting to send more. And that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, because we're living up to our mission, which is to represent the demographic of the state of Indiana in our own population, recognizing that there are gifted students within every segment of the population, and that we should try to get those here together so they can intermingle. It's good for their understanding of diversity and for their tolerance.
Yeah, especially since I've heard different things, but I've heard the price of a student to go here without any federal financial aid would be about $21,000 a year. Is that true? Or
to go to the academy?
yes, if Ball State did not fund.
Ball State actually does not fund any of our students. We have two sources of income. We have an allocation from the state of Indiana, a legislative document support that is based just on who we are. And that brings in over $4 million a year to our budget. And then we have what is called the ADM, which is based on the average daily attendance at the academy. The tax dollars for the students who come here in the last several years have also come to the academy with those students. So that's the other half of our budget. Unfortunately, it's not adequate to support this residential program, so we have had to start charging students a little bit of the room and board, which is only a fraction of what we have to pay for room and board per student.
Yeah, for sure. I've always been curious how the $1,800, just where that came out. And I'm sure they would tell you if you asked, but it's...
You mean what we charge
Yeah.
per student? Well, we started out charging $1,500. We did not want to charge anything because we felt that it would prohibit some students, and frankly it has, from attending here, because even though you cannot feed and house and clothe a student for $1,500 in your own home, you're not writing a check to someone else for that money. You're incorporating their expenses into your family expenses. It just doesn't seem like that is the best deal. But families were still willing to try to do it, and we did exempt students who qualify for free and reduced lunch from having to pay that full amount, and to give them a break that way. And that was just something we decided to do.
That's awesome.
So that they could continue to represent that part of the demographic, and we could have them here. The amount was determined by Ball State. They said, this is what you have to balance your budget. And of course, if we don't balance our budget, we aren't here.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So we complied, and that's why this year the amount is $2,150 per student.
Is this the incoming year or the year?
That is this year.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
You probably didn't check with your parents, so you don't know that it went up.
Yeah, I did not, huh?
Yeah, the students often don't have any idea what it costs, and as long as the families are able to meet the obligations, I'd rather not have the students have any worries about that.
Yeah.
Because you have your hands full studying.
Yeah, we do. It's awesome though that this is such a good school, and I couldn't believe it when I was looking at it. Like when my dad was going through everything that the school said they had, and he was just expecting some price tag at the end that was ridiculous, and he just saw the tuition for the school year, and I used to go to Cecina, and that was like $7,500 a year. So
right, yes,
yeah.
it is much cheaper than the very good private schools, because we are a public school.
Public?
We are public.
Even though you have to test in, it would still be considered a. Huh.
Well, you have to test into Ball State.
Yes, you do.
They're
Good
public.
point. Okay, good point. Okay. Question number 4, how does the social dynamic of the academy workplace compare to that of your previous workplace?
Well, my previous workplace was Fresno Pacific College, where I was a director of professional development. And so it was a much more college-oriented, more collegiate atmosphere. And I was still involved with some distance learning programs, some tours and classes that teachers would take to keep their credentials current. So I wasn't interacting with students at all, unless you want to consider those teachers our students at that time. The social dynamic here, within the academy, we are a little university within the university. And we have all aspects of a university within our high school. So the community is pretty tight, pretty close-knit. Everybody knows everybody, with the exception of when we hire new Ball State student workers each year, people are saying, who is that? You know? So we could do a little better job of communicating. And of course the student body turns over, half the student body turns over every year. So it's hard to keep up with the kids. That's one of the reasons we have the pictures in the lounge, and we like to interact as much as possible and attend things that the students do and so on. But the dynamic here, I think, is very healthy. I know of no real, no conflicts at the moment. And I can think of very few in the past. There have been some, but at the moment, everyone works very hard together, try to help each other out.
That's awesome.
If one office is without personnel, another office will take up the slack until that office is.
So it's like a family aspect.
It is, really. And I think we think about our students, our faculty, I know, think of the students that way.
Huh, that's awesome. So would you say that there's a much more intellectual aspect to the faculty here? Would you say that it's just...
yeah, they are definitely a cut above. They are more like a college faculty than the ordinary high school faculty might be.
Think so?
Yeah.
It's just the standards are so much higher for I think every teacher has to have their master's degree, and
That's right.
1/3 of the teachers have their doctorates.
That's
so.
right. That's right. That's pretty unusual for a high school, especially a public high school.
Yes it is, yeah. Okay, question number 5. How do you think having worked at the academy will affect your future? whether it be, I don't know, like if you think you would want to take another job after here, or
Well, I am retirement age, and I could have retired last year. So as far as coming to work every day at a location where I'm being paid hourly, probably that is not in my future. What this job has done for me is just inspire me that there is a great future for our country, for the young people of our country, because I see the best of them here at this school. And what I will probably do is just work with my husband in a couple of businesses he has started since he is now retired from Lilly. I just came back from 2 weeks in Brazil traveling with him. He was working, I was traveling. It was great. I've never been to Brazil, and I'd like to do some more traveling. But I think that basically your question is getting at how has this job, how will this job influence my future? It has made me set my standards a lot higher for people I meet, people I interact with, and definitely for my grandchildren. Poor kids, they're going to have to work. They're going to have to work hard.
Yeah, they are.
Because my children are already out of school and they've done very well. But now the grandchildren, and I have hope for their future because of what I see in your classmates.
Yeah. It's just a good place, and it kind of inspires you that like at least after I know that I'm going to get out of here, I know that I'm not going to think that I can't do anything that I
That's
won't.
right.
So.
There's hope. There are some parts of the world where students have apparently lost hope, and they are acting out according to that hopelessness that they feel. And it takes an institution like this to let you know, no, it's ongoing. It's going to be good, and people like you and your classmates are going to help make it good for as many other people as you can.
Yeah. So when you went to Brazil, did you see that city that they've outlawed the advertisements on the billboards and stuff like that? Did you see that?
Was that Brasilia, the new capital?
I think it was.
It's possible. Yes, we did go there. I wanted to see that city because what is unique about Brazil, and not just because of Brasilia, is that they are so vast and there's so much open country that if they decide to start a new city, they just level everything and start a new city. And they've done some very good things with leaving enough space. You know how cities get all crowded and the streets are too narrow and they can't expand and they're just kind of boxed in. Well, they're using their heads, and they have an open format up down there. The man who started Brasilia, quite the politician, Mr. Jaqueline Kubitschek de Oliveira, I believe is his name. He was a friend of JFK. I saw pictures of him with Mr. Vargas, who was the previous president of Brazil. He actually took his own life, political thing, you know. Sure. But and several celebrities. I saw a picture of him with Marlon Brando.
Really?
Yeah, and all of the outfits that apparently that he ever wore anywhere, they idolize him because he built this new city, Brasilia, where all the government is now located, the new capital. And I didn't see any billboards, so that may be the one you're talking about, but if I'm wrong about that, I'm not sure what city you would be talking about.
Yeah, I actually think that is it, because I was watching a documentary over advertisements and how all that stuff goes down and how like it affects how we think, and they just he was just trying to make a point, and he went to Brazil and they just started interviewing people, and they said, what do you think about the place now that there's no advertisements? And they just said it just forces you to look at like the world more instead of like the world that we've created ourselves, like what's going to affect your life. Like
you don't get the impression though that they're not trying to influence you, because there are images of power and centralized government and control everywhere in Brasilia. Even the statuary, which is really great, and the buildings, which are very modern, still speak to central government.
Really?
Yeah. And so we don't have the commercial advertisements still.
Yeah.
They're still manipulating our thoughts.
Still, lots of that going on. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for this interview. That's all the questions I have to ask.
Okay.
I will definitely be emailing you some